It is an unfortunate reality that the president making wildly authoritarian pronouncements no longer counts as news, but it still should be news. Here he is, once again, calling explicitly on his attorney general to prosecute his political enemies, this time over the Russia investigation.
And I say this openly, Bill Barr can go down as the greatest attorney general in the history of our country, or he can go down as just another guy. It depends. They have all the stuff. You don't need anything else.
Bill Barr, you're saying, has to prosecute all of these individuals to be a great attorney general? I mean, he's one of the most talented attorney generals that
I'll let you know about
had.
that, and I really like him a lot, but I'll let you know about that.
This has been a consistent message from the president from the 2016 campaign. Remember when he told Hillary Clinton in the second presidential debate that if he was in office, she would be in jail. He would jail her. Or pursuing a long vendetta against his first Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, for the crime of not prosecuting the president's political enemies, despite him tweeting at him to do it, and for recusing himself from the Russia probe. But now Donald Trump is William Barr, who seems very amenable to whatever the president's whims are. Now, prosecuting his enemies, it's a Rubicon we have not quite crossed, though we are very, very close to being on the edge of it. The president is trying to use the state justice apparatus in the run-up to election for prosecutions of political enemies and dissidents. But another president, Richard Nixon, abused his power. John Dean, who served as White House counsel, famously stood up and exposed his corruption. He is now the co-author of a new book titled Authoritarian Nightmare, Trump and His Followers. And John Dean joins me now. It's great to have you on, Mr. Dean. Let me start with this principle here about prosecution of political enemies. We have seen the president wield the apparatus of justice as a kind of shield for his friends. We've seen William Barr intervene in prosecutions in the Department of Justice and sentencing memoranda, causing people to resign in disgust. We've seen pardons. We haven't quite gotten to the point where William Barr goes out and prosecutes a person the president has identified as an enemy. How worried are you about that? How dangerous is that?
I'm very worried about it. That's why I did the book, and I thank you for having me on to discuss it. I, as you say, worked for the last authoritarian president. He went to a degree that he didn't cross over, and we wouldn't actually know about Nixon's authoritarianism had we not gotten the tapes. On the other hand, Trump is in the Rose Garden playing on his authoritarianism. How far will he take it? We've known from the outset, since he was a candidate, that he was a demagogic candidate, and his authoritarianism has been right out front. So it's not the authoritarianism that has worried me as much as how far his followers will let him go with it. And that's been the focus of the book.
Say more on that in terms of the fact that, and this is something we talk about all the time in this program, that given all that's happened between, just say, the last 10 months, there's 185,000 heading towards 190,000 dead Americans and tens of millions who've lost their job. The president's approval rating is sitting right where it was before all that happened.
Exactly. That approval rating is very representative of who his base is. It gets not much higher than 44%, and in some polls not much lower than 35%. And that is his core base. That's the core of our book as well, where we wanted to understand who those people are, why they have the attitudes and the tolerance they do, why they're not upset with his norm-busting anti-democratic behavior, because they're the ones who are enabling him. Chris, they're also going to be around if Trump loses. They're not going anywhere. So
Right.
They're a part of the electorate that people have to understand, and we're going to see how they play out. We think not for the better. We think they're very difficult to defeat. You cannot persuade them easily. They do not have high critical skills. They can have very inconsistent positions very comfortably. And so it's a difficult group to deal with. And the only thing they understand is defeat.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, these people are fellow citizens. We have to learn how to live in a democracy with them, right? I mean, there's something sort of, I bump my head against the same kind of wall, right? Which is particularly in the wake of the pandemic, to see this and think to myself, gosh, there's something so deeply broken here. But there has to be, and when you say they have to understand defeat, I mean, that's kind of the question here, right? Which is that, will the president use the tools of the state through William Barr to essentially ensure that you can't actually have free and fair elections?
Well, that's a high possibility and probability right now. We discuss Barr in the book as he's one of the key enablers who we addressed with Mike Pence and Pompeo. Those are his three horsemen of enabling. And I think Barr will push it awfully far. He is dancing around the 60-day rule at the Department of Justice about when you will or will not prosecute somebody, and we'll have to see what he does. But he obviously has got the president's whistle wet and ready to have some action, so something's going to come, and it's pure authoritarianism. And Barr is on that team. He is a clear, definable authoritarian personality that we address in our book.